Well, hello everybody, woo buddy. It's been a while since I've seen you, been a while since you've seen me. Landscape my whole front yard, at least the first half of it down the hill, which I've always hated mowing. What I did was I put the work in now. About 2 weeks and 2 days to get this thing done single-handedly. So really this video today is just some stuff that I've kind of shot in the last few weeks and never really finished or put out. And a good bit of it is about this hammock I'm sitting in right now, the Haven tent. Which, you know, the designer Derek, he calls it a tent, even though it hangs like a hammock. Reason I was really interested in this, at least it is something different. You know, it's like when the Amok Dromore came out. I was interested in it because it was a different design. And yes, like this one, and like the Amok, it's dependent on a pad for its shape. But that's not a deal buster for me. Now, a lot of us guys that are sort of set in our ways, you know, the guys that have been hammocking a long time, might find this one, you know, when we take a first look at it, it seems kind of heavy, you know, it's got a pad. But I'm going to take it on a camping trip that I'm going on tomorrow up in the Boundary Waters by myself and give it a test ride. I've napped in it a good bit. It took me a little while to get used to it, but I do find it comfortable. It's got pros and cons. I'm going to, on this trip going up north, I'm going to bring my own tarp. I'm going to put whoopee slings on it. So I'm going to switch out the carabiners before I go, because these are really sort of those heavy steel ones, and I'm going to use some Dutch beaners because that's what I always use. So I'll just throw my whoopee slings on with that and really just try out the actual hammock part. Not crazy about the tarp that comes with it. I mean, it doesn't leak, it's fine, but it hangs really low to the hammock. And you know, I'm one of those guys that's kind of set in my tarp way. I want a separate tarp with a little bit more room. And, you know, I'm not a guy that would ever sort of close, as this one's designed to do, to kind of bring your tarp down and sort of, you know, toggle it down. I want some airiness in my hammock, but we all feel differently. You know, I always feel like, you know, when you're in a tent, you're driving a car, and when you're in a hammock, you're kind of riding a motorcycle. You got some stuff hanging out. Well, I'm hanging out here in the Haven in the rain, and I've got the tarp that it comes with configured on right now. I'm really doing that because we've had a lot of rain, and I'm just sort of checking to see if we get any leaks from where they sew in the toggles in the top. And because this is the new version of the tarp that Derek has upgraded, and I gotta say, whenever you're putting out a new product, you know, you gotta go through some trials and tribulations, because the first version leaked. But, you know, he got right on it and took care of it, and it's seam sealed now. And I've not been able to feel any water coming through where these toggles are. Right up here. That's the toggle right there, and there's one down on the other end. So far, really good. Looking up at the new version of the tarp, and it's a little hard to see here. Maybe if you look close, it is taped, seam sealed with seam sealing tape, and that is his new version. And here's the toggle, and that's outside on the top of the tarp. So when you roll up the tarp from the edges, you know, if you choose to do that, they've included these toggles on top. And the first version of this, and a lot of people don't think of this when they sew into a ridge line, was leaking a lot. I've had the tarp up in the rain for a couple of days and not had any drips come through. And we've had some pretty hard rain. So that's a good thing. Now, one thing about this tarp, if you configure it the way it's intended to, where the tarp hooks on right to the carabiners that go to the end of the Haven to hook to the suspension, it clips right on, so your tarp ends up being pretty low. It hangs low in that configuration, and that's part of his design. And also how you can pull the tarp down and close it totally flat. There's a little hook right down here, piece of shock cord right there on the Haven, and that would hook to this little hook right here. So that comes down and hooks in the middle. Now, one thing about me, I got into hammocks, and even though this isn't really called a hammock, it does suspend. It's called the Haven tent. Which is interesting because I mean, the closest thing is a bridge hammock. Though the spreader bars on a bridge hammock are kind of down in the hammock, these spreader bars are up high, so you're hanging down below them. So at least it's a different design. But I noticed on a lot of his videos, the tarp is a very small footprint, so I guess if you have really bad weather, you bring it down, and I'll show you in a little while, and it clips in the middle, and on the two ends, and the same thing on the other side, so you can have your tarp all the way down on you. There's a little vent up here behind some of these pockets, so hopefully you get a little airflow through there, because this hammock is made out of a PU ripstop material, so it's, I don't know the breathability of it, but it's pretty waterproof. So far I've not really had any condensation. So my only caveat is, because I'm an old tried and true hammocker, is I would want to suspend my tarp up a little bit higher to get it up off of me. So that's one of the things about the Haven. The old tried and true hammocker is going to have to make some adjustments to it. So let's take a look at this pretty flat lay. Pretty flat. You know, it feels like a bridge hammock. My feet can flop out. That's comfortable. Pad is comfortable. I don't mind it. Now here's a look at the Haven tent tarp on top of my Warbonnet Mini Fly. So the Mini Fly is the one that's sticking out the furthest here. Is an 11-foot tarp. So here you can get an idea of the length of the tarp that comes with the Haven. And here is how it hooks to your carabiner, which also hooks to the suspension. So it makes for kind of a loose tarp. I would prefer to see it pulled out like that. But then again, you're talking to a guy that's pretty set in his ways. Daisy chain webbing. I'm hoping he's made this daisy chain webbing a little bit longer, and I think he has in the newer versions. I found it to be a little bit short in my first trials. Kind of run out of room pretty quickly with that. Especially if your tree is a little bit thicker and you wrap it, you tend to lose a little bit of this length quickly. One of the pros to this hammock is it's one of the easiest to set up on a ground pitch. You got a pad, it's flat, set it up, crawl in, good to go. Here we are in full mosquito mode, and that is removable. And we've got the tarp removed so you can see it better. And the zippers start right down here. Got this little snap over the top to kind of seal that little gap. Works pretty good. You know, camping, I mean, if one mosquito wanted to really get in and work his way in there, he could. So one zipper starts on this side, and one zipper starts on this side. You can zip it all the way open, flip it back, or use the little ties right here with the toggle. Well, one thing that's nice is, you know, the bug net is well off my face. You got a lot of view, and so that's a good thing. Not right on top of you. And as I lay here, here's the spreader bar. And when I want to get out, reach up, unzip it, and what's pretty interesting for the ridgeline, it's almost a piece of mule tape. I don't know if that's 3/8 or maybe it's 1/2 inch, but you know, you can really grab onto that getting in and out of this thing to help yourself get in and out. So, and that is built into the whole suspension, which goes under there to here. And there you go with no bug net. Kind of down so low here, down so low. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool. It's a different idea. I love that about it. It's not the same old thing. All right, here's the Haven tarp by itself. We're going to weigh that right quickly. Well, that is 1 pound, 4.5 ounces. We'll go to, so that's 20.55 ounces. That's 583 grams. And that's with everything on it. That's with the lines on it. Here is my Black Crow tarp that I'm going to bring. It's much larger, and it's in snake skins and has all of its lines. 15.3 ounces, and grams, 434 grams. So I'm going to get a little more coverage and save a little weight with this tarp. Now we're going to weigh the Haven insulated pad. There's the dimensions right there. Actually, 24 inches wide. 24 inches wide by 78 by 4 inches thick. It's got an R value of R4, which I think is down to like 28 or something. So that would be, so that's 2 pounds, 1.8 ounces is what it is. That's 33.76 ounces. And that is 957 grams. Here's the Haven tent body with the poles and my Whoopee sling suspension on there and straps. So we're looking at 3 pounds, 5 ounces. That's 48.50 ounces. That is 1,375 grams. All right, so the whole thing kind of hooks together like this. Pad and Haven. So let me see if I can get a weight on these two together, because I don't do math well. All right, the two of them together were at like 5 pounds, 2.3 ounces. All right, 5 pounds, 2.2 ounces for pad and hammock together. That's 82.01 ounces. That is 2,325 grams. So, you know, not the lightest thing. I mean, you know, it doesn't feel heavy really. So that's that, and then we add my 15-ounce tarp to it. And that's going to be the system, as opposed to bringing my Eldorado hammock and my underquilt and this. Of course, this is going to be a lighter system right here, but I need to bring this out in the woods and sleep in it before I can give you any word on it.
That feller talks a lot. Make me a mite bit nervous.